Welcome to another edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about, but probably should. And I've got a very special guest here in the podcast room. We've got Nigal De Maria. How are you?
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
Yeah, mate, 100%.
That's good. Mate, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here, and we're going to hear about your journey, if that's all right, and also where you are now.
Yep.
I know we had a bit of a chat over our chicken wings tonight, but, mate, I'm going to ask you right now to check in. 5 is awesome. 1's terrible. How are you hanging in tonight?
Oh, look, we're pretty about a 4, maybe a 4.2, mate. Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. Day's been up and down. Been a great day, but not a 5 yet. I'll depending on how well you manage this podcast, mate, we'll know whether or not you got to a 5. Eh?
Well, usually when people come over, I butter up with some food, but I cook tonight, so it's not as good as Rachel's cooking, but I'll get there. Tell me tonight, mate, if that's okay, what's something that you're really grateful for?
Oh, such a great question. Where do I start? Like, you know, I'm grateful. You know, I go back to what I've been doing lately. Is I do gratitudes at night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I'll do 3 gratitudes at night.
Beautiful.
And these 3 things that I'm thankful for. And I try to go more beyond I'm glad the sun rose, or I'm glad I got food today. You know, I kind of, like, you know, I'm glad I got into this, or I'm glad I did this with someone. But then I also do something I've got to improve on for the next day. So I kind of reflect back and go, hang on, what did I do that I could have done better?
All right.
Or didn't actually, you know, measure up to my standard or the benchmark. But look, I guess it'll always come back to my daughters.
Yep.
So grateful for these 2 little earth angels, Abby and Georgia.
Beautiful. Nice.
They're my litmus test to everything I do.
Well, can I ask you now and put you on the spot, and what's something you could have improved on today?
What could have I improved on today? I had some stuff happen this morning that was pretty nerve-wracking and pretty tense. As a personal situation I was dealing with, and I don't think I handled it as well as I did because I got caught up in my own anxieties.
Okay.
And the mind started to race, and I started to act a bit, you know, oh, I've got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. But if I had taken a breath, I look back now, I had taken a breath and just gone, just sit down, take it easy, turn the car off, pull over, have a walk, get yourself back to an even keel. I reckon I would have probably managed the whole thing a bit better. Some
emotional regulation. And you've got a lot of background in that too, which you're going to get into tonight, mate. I'm actually looking forward to that. So good response. All right, here we go. This is often a tough question for people who come on the podcast. I'm going to get you early. Who is Nigal? Can you sum yourself up in the 30 or 60 seconds just so the audience can have a listen who will listen to the show right now? Who are you?
Yeah, okay. So Brisbane, pretty much bred, born in New South Wales, a place called Wagga Wagga. Yeah.
Go the Blues.
I'll say that.
No.
Yeah,
Keep going.
No, I switch between whoever's winning at the time. So look, let's keep it pretty brief, as you said, within 60 seconds. Went to school, didn't like school, hated school, didn't do very good at school.
Okay.
Reason I didn't like school was I just found the authoritarian way of the teachers and the staff, being a private boys' school, really hypocritical, and that sort of didn't stick with me very well, which probably pushed me to where I am now. So I was a primary school teacher. I then got into doing consultancy work for kids who were in care of the state, you know, little kiddies that get taken off mum and dad for a whole range of pretty sad reasons. I was placing them into schools and supporting them in care, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I then got approached by a lovely bloke by the name of Dale Murray, his mentor, good friend, and he kind of approached me about applying to open up a school at Nala, a flexi school. Did that. That was fantastic. I then was successful to be appointed as a principal to open up Queensland's first full-time autism-only school. So I did that. Founded my own school, gave that over a couple of years ago, which was great. It just opened up this year. Worked in the flexi space, mate. Always in that space for the kids on the pointy end. Really enjoy working in that space because you kind of get a bit of autonomy to be creative about how you're going to support kids, and I guess in a sense run with them, you know, and run them with the kid, letting the kid, building the system around the kid, not making the kid work in the system.
Love it. Love that. Love that quote. Now listen, I actually have the next 2 questions which you've sort of started, but I was going to say, can you take us through your schooling journey and what that looked like? So you said you had some challenges in primary school. Yeah. Did you have some challenges in high school too? Like, yeah. Can you mind if you open up about, like, was there also, like, did you get along with people there? Were you bullied in there? Did you have school refusal? Like, take us through, if that's okay, just some of your journey for primary and high school. Yeah,
look, it was pretty tricky because I'd come out of Mum and Dad had a deer farm, so we grew up on 40-acre deer farm, you know, just little country boys out here at a place called Mount Sampson, and we had a fantastic upbringing, you know. Of course, you know, there's always problems in families with mum and dad and the kids and what we're getting up to. Yeah. So I went to a little small primary school that only had about 28 kids at it. So it was called Mount Sampson State School. And my daughters now go there. And if anybody's looking for a great school, go there. It's absolutely brilliant. They don't have catchments at the moment. They're looking for enrolments. brilliant school. So I went from a school of 28 kids with probably 4 kids in my grade, and I left there at the end of year 4 and went to a big private boys' school in Ashgrove, and I had 28 kids in my class. Now
And the whole school's in one class.
Yeah. It was full on daunting. Like, I was like looking around going, what do I do here?
So what year was that?
This is year 5.
So why did you get sent there?
Oh, it starts at year 5.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
it starts at year 5.
Yeah.
So mum and dad wanted me to go to this school.
Yep.
Anyway, for the best part of it, primary school was pretty cool. Like, I didn't mind it too much. But then as I got into secondary school, everybody starts kind of work out who they are. You're starting to go through puberty. Being in all boys schools, it was pretty rah-rah, if you weren't
pecking order?
Pardon?
Bit of a pecking order sort of
Oh,
thing?
100% pecking order, 100% pecking order. But then, I with getting to about the age of 12 or 13, I started to get quite fat. And being short and then having a name like Nigel, the whole Nigel no mates, it turned up the bullying. But look, that's what happens, like, unfortunately it's what happens. And every kid I think you speak to, every person you speak to, they all would have been bullied at school. So for about 2 years, school was pretty tricky. And then I kind of sort of got out of that. I got into fitness. I started going to the gym at the school, started exercising, kind of shred all those little tubby, pubescent fat kilos. They were all gone. And then just started to make some really good friends. But I really struggled with the school. I'll always say that I was not a good student. I don't enjoy studying. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy high school. I didn't enjoy the subjects. But I think I also didn't enjoy the subjects because I didn't enjoy a lot of the teachers.
Okay.
I didn't like the way they taught.
So unpack that a bit. What do you mean? As in authoritarian style or?
Yeah, authoritarian. Do what we say, not what we do. The double standards I found quite difficult. I also found quite difficult just the way they were teaching us. It was overheads. This is back in the days.
Overhead projector?
The overhead projector. Like, there's no.
We don't have to talk about what this is your story, mate. You don't have to bring me into this, but yes. Well, I definitely did have overhead projectors. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. It's not these days, where you got TVs and interactive whiteboards and all this amazing stuff. So the overhead would go up and a lesson would be copied.
We had one in the room the other day, and one kid goes, "What the hell is this?" And I went, "This is what you used to have to do." Like, geez, you're old, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, mate. Yep. So overhead projector. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Chalk and
also
talk.
I just felt that the kids weren't getting put first, and if you didn't fit into a certain box that was effectively affirmed by the school culture, a very established school culture, which was typically built around rugby, you kind of sat on the outer, which was really sad. And there were a lot of kids like that there, So I'd probably say that one of the good things that came out of my time there, it wasn't that great, but it wasn't that bad either. Like, I didn't wake up every morning crying, going, I don't want to go to school. You just went to school.
What about the bullying days though? How did you get through those ones? Because I know there's a lot of people who are bullying now, and look, I know things have changed now with social media, and a lot of that brings people into school. But how did you get through those days? Like, were you in the old school?
That's a great question. I've never actually really thought about that. I'd probably put it down to the upbringing with mum and dad on the property and resilience. The way they'd kind of instilled certain values and certain ways to be, and still had a great bunch of friends around me.
Okay.
I had a brother who was 2 years younger than me. Him and I were as thick as thieves, still are.
Yeah.
So I've never actually really thought about that. But I would say it was pretty defining in who I am. Like, it taught you how to be resilient, taught you, what to look out for, what not to look for.
Has it shaped you now when you see kids who are bullied to give them some extra support, or does it ever take you back to your time, or did you just say that's just part of life?
Oh, look, I do look at it as that's just part of life, but I don't accept that it's part of life. Like, it shouldn't be part of life. Like, it's horrendous. Like, I'll share a story with you that was pretty sad. My daughter Abby came home when she was, I'm just trying to think how old she was. She would have been six, maybe 7, year 1 or year 2. Mm-hmm. Came home and said to me, "Daddy, I want to commit suicide. I want to die."
Oh my gosh.
And, you pretty much fall off your chair when you hear that. So I took a breath and I went, "What do you mean, darling?" And she said, she produced these pictures for me. And she produced pictures of hearts with knives in them, and had written on them, Daddy, didn't write Daddy, so I wrote, "Why am I so hated? I know I'm a good person. This is not fair."
Oh, sad.
So spent some time having a chat with her about what was going on. And she was getting bullied at school by one girl in particular. So I went up to the school, and I'm in a really blessed situation. Like, I know school process. Yeah. I know school policy, and I know how to talk to principals. It just comes with the career. It comes with the years of doing it. if someone who's a builder came over to my house and saw some stuff, they could do an amazing job better than I could because they've done it for years. It's not that I'm a talented, gifted person. I've just had that exposure.
Environment. Yeah.
So I went up to the school. We spoke to the school. I spoke to the school about it. First time they did something, didn't work. Went back up, didn't do. Once again, had a small effect. Didn't get the result I wanted. Abby was still getting bullied. Went up a third time, and this time I went a bit heavier. I went with policy. I went with, if this doesn't go where it needs to go, we're going to region. This is going to look really ugly on blemishing on your records, et cetera, et cetera. To this day, I cannot thank the school enough for what they did. They pulled out all stops for Abby.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they did it straight away, but they did an amazing stuff. They put her into supports. They had the guidance officer seeing her. They had her into STARS programs. They had the principal checking in with her every second day to make sure she's okay.
And potentially change her life.
Yeah. But what's really interesting is, what made me think of that before was when you said to me, has it shaped your ideas or your way of thinking about bullying? And I absolutely detest it. And here's a story about Abby in this time that I kind of go, how lucky am I to have a daughter like this? I had to take her out of school to go get her glasses in the middle of all this palaver around the bullying.
Yeah.
And she was talking to me about it, and I said to her, well, I'm going back up to the school. I'm about to go back up again, darling. Here we go. We're driving in the car, and I don't know what it is about driving in cars with kids, but if you've got a kid in the front seat by yourself and you're there at the front seat and you're both staring straight ahead, you can have these amazing conversations. They're bloody great.
Walls are down.
Anyway, so we're driving along, and she's talking about some of the stuff that's happened, and I'm getting, not only am I getting emotional, I'm getting angry.
Yeah.
And I look out the window. And I just think to myself, this is absolutely not right. And I say out loud, I'd burn the fucking world for you, darling.
Yeah, wow.
And she hears me.
Oh.
And she says to me, Daddy.
He said a naughty word.
She goes, Daddy, what does burn the world mean? And I went, well, I can either soften this and give her the kid version, or I can just shoot straight with her. So I shot straight with her. I said, what it means, darling, is nothing is ever going to stop me from protecting you. And I would happily burn the world and everything in it to protect you from being hurt. So she goes, what do you mean burn the world? I said, I'd burn everything I own, burn every person that was hurting you just to make sure you were safe. She goes quiet for a second, and then she turns to me and she goes, Daddy, if you do burn the world, and let's just say, for example, for the sake of this story, the kid who was bullying her name's Lisa. It wasn't Lisa. Let's just call her Lisa. Yeah. She looks at me. She goes, Daddy, if you do burn the world, can you please make sure that you don't burn my sister Georgia, because I love her? Can you not burn my best friend? We'll call her Alice. My best friend Alice, and please don't burn Mummy, because I love Mummy. But also Lisa, who was bullying me, Daddy. Can you please not burn her as well? Because she's actually quite a nice person when she wants to be, and I do like her. I'm just sitting there with tears. I've got tears rolling down my face, thinking, "Look at you little darling." Something's gone right for me to be gifted you as a little daughter.
Yes, lovely,
yeah.
All right, so there's a high school journey and primary school journey, and then into university. So did you always want to be a teacher?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I did.
Even though you hated your teachers, eh?
Yeah. I think it was the reverse thing. I was kind of like, I can't try and do something where I'm better than this.
Yeah, right.
And I can maybe make a difference or make a change, or just be better than what I experienced, because people deserve that.
Yeah, nice.
But Mum took me to see this guidance counsellor in the city. Remember, it was on Elizabeth Street in the city, in the Brisbane CBD.
Yeah.
I think his name was Ted. Anyway, he did all these psychometric testings on me and came out and he said, you make a great teacher. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. I'll be a teacher. And it kind of seemed to gel for me.
Yeah, wow.
So when I left school, I did pretty badly at school. Back then we had the OP system. You're the same vintage as me.
Thanks, mate. Once again under the bus. Yep, I'm glad you came on. This is good.
I'm here to help.
Yeah.
So we had we had the OP system. So one,
is it best?
Bloody
25
25 shit house. I got 17. Okay. I came out real bad.
You're the first person I beat.
Yeah,
I got a 2.
You got a 2?
No, I got 11. This is supposed to be a show called Unspoken, but anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So I I came out with a 17. So I just went down the QTAC list and just chose, before I came out, because they give you the predictive scores of what you got. So I just chose all these TAFE programs that I thought I'd be able to get into. Anyway, I got into a thing called business retailing, Associate Diploma Business Retailing. I did that for about 2 years, went and worked as a sales rep for selling computer gear and computer consumables on the road. Really great. Built my confidence to talk to people, etc. Loved it. Kind of felt I was a bit of, a high flyer, walking around with a 18, 19-year-old with his tie and his mustard yellow shirt. No, you don't. I had a Steven Seagal ponytail back then.
Did you?
Yeah. It was really
My mother would like that. She loves Steven Seagal and his ponytail.
Yeah? Mm. Oh, wow, okay. So anyway, did that. And then I was kind of sitting back in this job going, what am I going to tell my grandkids when I'm older? I was a sales rep for 50 years of my life. What about the teaching stuff? So I went back to teaching at about the age of 21, did the course 4 years at ACU when it was at Mitchie, great little uni, had a great time, loved it. Didn't buy a single textbook the whole time there. Got by with 3s of degrees, 4s open doors. But always kicked ass in my pracs. Always got 7s or 6s in my
sales
pracs.
background, probably.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the teaching stuff,
So good.
Absolutely loved it. And then pretty much finished teaching the teaching course in November of 2002, and by the end I was in London teaching.
Wow, okay.
Lived over there for about 3 or 4 years. Came back, and the journey I told you about before is kind of how it all transpired. So, yeah.
It's amazing. So, and then that thing must have gone through your brain where you said you want to do something different and teach differently, like your pedagogy and your pedagogical approach and that, because when I met you, you're at the YMCA and introduced from through my wife, I suppose, when she came to visit the YT to see how things were going.
Yep.
Because we're always talking about creating your own schools, but you went and did it. You actually went out, didn't you? So can you take me through take the audience through the path where you finished that, you went back to uni, you did your degree, you got into teaching. What happened? So where did you start your teaching career, and then where did you get to when you finished your teaching career? Because now you're doing something completely different.
Yeah. So I started my teaching career at a Brisbane Cath Ed school down the south side, teaching a year 4-5 class. And I met a principal there, the head of primary, who then became a principal, who became a really close mate and also a mentor, was a bloke by the name of John Parkinson. Okay. He's retired now. I caught up with John about maybe 6 weeks ago. Great bloke. But John has a highly disabled son, and Jeff would be probably 30 now. And it's really interesting when you meet people who have children with disabilities, who work in things like schools or healthcare and that sort of stuff. They get and they understand what it means to make changes to accommodate the capacity. So to give you a lovely story about John, I'm a typical teacher teaching this class, and I went up to him and said, look, I'm spending too much time with this kid, Rodney. He's taking up all of my time. And it's like I'm not getting the other kids in the class. And he just looked at me and he just said, Rodney needs it. And I was like, yeah, okay, now I get it. Rodney needs it. Okay, and it's my job to make sure that Rodney gets it. So he had a really interesting way of looking at kids. And I would say he was very formative in kind of solidifying this direction I ended up in because of his approach and his understanding. Now, I've never actually really asked John this. I'm only making this assumption that came from his son teaching him that. His son who was highly disabled. So, yeah. So we did that. I then moved around a bit, went to another BCE school about a year later, kind of at a suburb called Mitchelton. Shot up to a school here, a private college at North Lakes.
What were you teaching?
Oh, primary school. So I was teaching year 5s and year 6s.
Okay.
Did some subject leadership stuff as well. Now, teaching at this school up here at North Lakes was a private college. Lovely school, don't get me wrong, but it's just not for me. And I really didn't enjoy working in that space, not because of the kids, but just because these kids were already born with the silver spoon in their mouth. You know, they were already ahead, purely by birthright. You know, so I kind of thought, what am I going to do? So I got out of that and became an education officer and consultant for Lifeline, and that's when I ended up in residential care programs, which are, you know, everyone will say they're residential care homes. Look, the reality is they're just glorified orphanages with 4 or 5 kids. And there's probably people out there at the moment who, if they listen to this, they'll be like, you can't say that, Nigel. And I'll say to you, yes, I can, because what they are is they're homes for kids who are in care of the state. And we were trying to Lifeline was trialling off a new one called a therapeutic residential service. So it was all based around therapeutic approaches to kids from trauma. not behavioural or that sort of authoritarian approach. It was kind of what's the reason behind the behaviour? What supports do we need to put in place to support the behaviour? Because the behaviour is effectively a form of communication, and the kid's asking for help. So how do we help them with that? So I did that for a couple of years, and then I met through that doing a joint project with this guy called Dale Murray. Dale Murray was the national director for Edmund Rice Education Australia's flexi schools. Yep. He was setting up flexi schools all over the country. By the end of the time he finished up with EREA, I think he had probably opened up close to maybe about 20 flexi schools across the country.
Jeez.
So I got employed to open up his Anala Flexi School, which is a pretty cool program because it was done in partnership with the Queensland Police at the time. So they had this pretty cool commissioner of a police commissioner by the name of Bob Atkins. And Bob Atkins had a bit of a view on policing that it needed to be a bit more proactive. They also had a superintendent called Tonya Carew who was working out there, and Tonya was fantastic. She was a real mover and shaker. So she was trying to work out, what do we do about all these recidivist offenders, They get suspended from school, they go on the streets, they commit a crime, they go into jail. They come out, the school won't touch them, they commit another crime, they go back into jail. Mm-hmm. So, there was kind of an MOU between EREA and QPS that we opened up this school. So we did that for about 6 years. And that was some pretty wild days back there. We were failing forward in what we were doing, It was all new ground for all of us. We had some wins, we had some losses. There was some real tragedy stuff going on, There was stuff that was happening out in these spaces that is kind of where God goes to cry. Like it was that full on. But the other thing about Anala is a lot of people go, Anala, it's terrible, it's crime. If you've spent some time there, it's actually a really addictively vibrant community. It really is lovely. I got shown more hospitality working in the school out there with the families around there and being brought into their homes, cups of coffee, cups of tea, than I'd ever been shown at any school I'd ever worked at where the parents came from, white upper middle class families. Like it was incredible. These people had nothing, but they were more generous and more inviting than the families of white middle class families. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Isn't it? Real sense of community there.
Yeah, 100%. So from there, I went out and opened up the Sycamore School. I was put on as a foundation principal there. A lovely family called the Corrie family, Cindy and I can't remember what her husband's name is now. They had a kid who's Sam. He had ASD, and so that got them thinking about how do we work with kids, how do we educate kids with ASD. So she put in place the wheels in place to get the school registered. I was then brought on to sort of get the school up and going, the foundational operational stuff. I did that for about a year and a half. And look, we had some fantastic wins there, but we had such a brilliant team. Like my deputy principal, a lady by the name of Alyssa Brinkman, if you're looking for someone to work with ASD kids, she was amazing. She's got a real heart for it. So from there, what do? I then started to put in place, I went and did some consultancy work back for EREA. So I jumped out of the whole schooling stuff, and I was consulting to Life Without Barriers, which is a foster care agency. So supporting their case managers and kids and carers, getting the kids back into school, doing a lot of stuff on trauma training, so training families and kids and schools on trauma-informed practice. And then I was sort of thinking to myself, sort of COVID was about to come into play. Yeah, it might have been 2018 I did this, so maybe I'm before COVID. So 2018 I started to put the wheels in motion of opening up my own school. And what spurred me onto it was that I hadn't found a school out there that specifically cared for kids and educated kids with mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, that sort of stuff, So I put the wheels in motion, made some great connections. I got the land for a beautiful organisation up here called the Freshwater Anglican Parish. Lovely bloke there, the priest there, bloke by the name of Clay Middleton. Him and I really worked well together, and he was really passionate about the community. So we got that up and going. I got the school fully registered, all the policies, did all the procedures, wrote the framework of care, wrote the staffing model, et cetera, et cetera. Then came the time of, how do I get the $600,000 to get it over? And couldn't have it. So got approached by another organisation up that way. And then, we kind of gave that over. I went and did a stint with them for a while as the principal, the foundation principal, and they took it over because originally it was called Connections Community College. And they then renamed it to Unity College, which is, kind of what happens. But they took it on because they had the financial backing. They put me on as a foundation principal. That didn't work out. And then I went and did some other stuff with the YMCA. So I ran a couple of their schools, one down to Acacia Ridge, and then I ran two of the YMCA flexi schools up here, the Mango Hill and the North Lakes. And then from there, I did some stuff with Education Queensland in running programs for some of their most disengaged, the kids that weren't coming to school. We got some good runs on the board. I remember the first day I started in this program up at Caboolture, I only had 4 kids coming to school every day.
Yeah.
By the time I was kind of finishing up there within a term, I had 20 kids turning up every day.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really good. Well done.
And then from there, I kind of went, well, what am I going to do next? Well, and now I'm here running my own little company called Engage You, which works primarily as an NDIS provider for kids with disabilities. So doing a lot of work in the school space, supporting families, helping families sort of understand, the NDIS space, the kids, pulling in the extra supports, everything from personal training to nutrition to psychology, etc., supporting the families. A big thing at the moment I'm finding I'm getting called into is helping parents navigate the school system when their kids are struggling or their kids with disabilities, or as I like to say, kids with different abilities or different abilities aren't having their needs met.
And I'll jump in there because I just feel like, and we've had a bit of a conversation around dinner, not in depth, but you give me sort of a blanket approach where I'm sort of understanding, but how good does that fit you and what you stand for? Because I heard things out in the dinner table that people wouldn't have heard, obviously, but things like, yeah, Gary, I can do this program, but I've got to make sure it's value for the parents. I'm not going to rip off the NDIS. It's going to make, because there's plenty of people who are no doubt out there. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, there is. Yeah, and you're like, no, I'm not going to offer that. I'm not going to charge that because that's not fair and parents can afford that and there's only a limited budget. And that's what I think you've, in your podcast already, you've talked about caring for others. You've promoted, edified other people. You're just that kind of human where you're looking for the best for these people who need, who need it probably the most. So you're now helping parents navigate the school system, but also ways that they can access support for their kids and maybe even for themselves?
Yeah, 100%. I think what's really interesting about the NDIS is generally speaking, I think the NDIS is a fantastic initiative. It's a fantastic social welfare initiative and program. It's kind of up there. It's like, the Snowy Mountain Hydro Scheme or the rollout of the NBN. Yeah, let's say the NBN. There's some people there rolling their eyes at me right now. But if you look at the kind of the infrastructure that goes in behind these programs, the NDIS is amazing. And at its most probably pure organic form, what the NDIS is aiming to do is really great stuff. You've just got the shitbags out there who are tearing it apart. That's it. You've got people overcharging kids. You've got people promising the world and not delivering. You name it. Like I heard one story, a family got charged $5,000 for a helicopter flight for a 30-minute helicopter flight over SeaWorld, which cost the provider $800.
What?
How do you sleep straight in bed at night with that sort of behaviour?
That's bad.
So for me, it's about the value added for the kids. Increasing their capacity to engage. And have a life with dignity. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's going to work for you because you've got that heart, mate, to get people there and get them in and also provide the services that you want to do. I'm going to backtrack a bit too. So obviously now you're starting your own business and sounds like it's getting a lot of traction already, but have you always been, like, I know you want to change the status quo a bit, but have you always been drawn to leadership? You've always wanted to be in charge?
Yeah, I think so. I have an unhealthy disdain for authority, and you've probably picked that up while you're laughing.
That's the way you term it. Not bad for someone with an AP17.
Yeah, God, I can speak some shit sometimes. Some people would say, "Hey," but no, like I do. I have a healthy disdain for unnecessary authority, for bureaucratic bullshit, for stuff that puts the system first, or puts the person in behind the big oak desk first, before it actually puts the person who that person behind the big oak desk is there for to work for. Like one of the biggest frustrations of mine is the fact that schools get a shitload of funding. They really do. But then you kind of think, well, how are you not able to support this kid? And it's not about the fact that it's the teachers failing. Teachers, I've never met a teacher in my whole career who I'd say is turning up to work each day just to pay off the mortgage. They're turning up because they care for the kids, The system under which they work, generally speaking, can be pretty oppressive. Yeah. And it can really stifle creativity. It can really stifle engagement. But it's a big machine. Like you look at Education Queensland, the amount of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people it employs. It's a massive machine. It's also a massive economy. So there's a whole lot of moving parts there that, if one part falls out of place, there's a lot of heads on the chopping block here. So, so when it comes to authority, I'd probably also say I link that to the old man. The old man, he was one of these radical left-wing senior academics out of the University of Queensland.
Okay.
And the University of Queensland tried to get rid of him back in the 1990s. They tried to fire him for, undesirable conduct or code of conduct stuff. He was the first person ever to win an unfair dismissal case against the University of Queensland unrepresented.
Wow.
Yeah. Took it all the way. Took it
What
all
a
the
legend.
way. Yeah.
Gift of the gab, that's where it comes from. So that's amazing. So what?
Yeah.
So in your definition, what is leadership? I'm throwing the spot now.
Wow, that's a great question. What is leadership? I could give you the textbook stuff around, different styles of leadership, the different models of leadership. Are you a coach? Are you authoritarian? Are you guidance? Where do you kind of sit? I don't know. I think for me, leadership is about the value of people. It's about the value of people and understanding what effectively your client needs and how to mobilize the value of people to support them.
Lovely.
That's probably what I think leadership is. Yeah.
Serving others.
Yeah.
I had a principal, I probably mentioned this before in another podcast, but the first year I was ever teaching was out in a remote place called Cloncurry near Mount Isa.
Yeah.
And Nordo was our principal out there. She's a legend. A lot of time for we always often bounce ideas. And she said, I just remember asking her to go to get my bus license so I could take kids, to all these different places out there. It's like miles down the road. Anyway, she said, I said, I wouldn't mind getting my bus license and taking the kids. Is that okay? She goes, Gary, if it's in the best interest of the student, I will always support you. And that's been a mantra the whole time through my career for anything. And I just love it. And I think a lot of things you talk about is under that heading as well.
Well, the other thing I kind of look at is how can we bend, manipulate and shift the system to work for kids? Because we can't push them all through the same toothpaste tube. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work because they're so different. And you think about, what I remember in leadership, I remember thinking when I was running schools and, I think the biggest school I run, which is nothing compared to some of these grammars and these St. Paul's, these are big schools. I was running schools with maybe 70 staff, but I'm constantly thinking about how do I support these staff to be the best version of themselves for the kids? And I've got to take into account every single piece of their difference to make that happen. And that's a real juggle. I don't envy people in leadership. It's a tough gig. If you really are committed and you want to do it right, how do you do it right? And it's not an easy work. Not at all.
Okay. So you start your own business now. What's the 5-year plan? Where's Nigel going to see himself in 5 years' time?
Oh, look, where would I be in 5 years' time? I've never really planned that far ahead in terms of career. I think still doing the stuff that I love, if it's running this business or running another one, if it's consulting, it'll still be in this space of working to support the people that were born with the wooden spoon in their mouth, the people that have got the reduced capacity through no fault of their own. Because I don't think if we're not working for and with them, we're not really making the contribution we were put here. There's an old saying, and I think it's Muhammad Ali. He came out and he's got this great quote. He says that service to others is your rent for your time on earth. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah. District Director Alan Bay sat to us one time at dinner in Towns, I'll never forget it. And Rachel's like, I love that.
Yeah. But you get so much out of it too. I get a lot out of working with people and working for people. And I'm not here to kind of say I'm great at what I do. I just enjoy what I do. I make a lot of mistakes. But owning those mistakes and sort of failing forward and trying to improve on them is what you aim for. You don't always do that. I don't always get to that space. But yeah.
Spoken like the John C. Maxwell is what he talks about. All right, mate, let's regress a bit now. We're going back a bit. Digress, I should say. You talked about being principal, setting up schools, and now you've jumped out. Here's a controversial question for you. Is the school system broken?
Well, I think the way I would look at that question is I would go, it's always been broken, so it's not broken.
Okay. And in the fact that, like you said before, it's not really about the kids?
Look, I think the intention behind why people get into education at the start, like if I went back and was able to interview every single teacher or a good selection of teachers, 24 hours before they were starting at teachers' college, wow, I bet you'd get some great stories and some great ideologies, and some great passions. You'd really hear it, Yeah. But is the school system broken? Well, I think, the only thing I can refer on there is if I ask, some of the families that I work with and some of the stuff that I've seen, I'd say, yeah, it probably is broken from the point that it was never actually running properly, which is really sad. Because I'd actually go so far as to say there's probably not one family out there who has a child with a disability or who a child is kind of a disability kid, a different abled kid. I bet you there's not one family out there who would be able to say every minute of their kid's schooling has been really positive. I bet you they would be able to tell you some horror stories.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, education at its most basic level is a right. We've got a right to education.
Yep.
But kids are getting denied that.
Yeah.
Because of something that is not their fault, because of a reduced capacity. For me, that just screams discrimination.
Yeah.
So,
well, what do you think is the biggest challenge for teachers these days then?
I think the biggest challenge for teachers is trying to reach all the kids. Like, it's a hard gig. It's a really hard gig. Like, you look at a teacher, they've got 28 kids in front of them, all with different abilities. All with different abilities. How are they going to reach every single one of them? And I think back to my teaching days, that was frustrating and heartbreaking. You'd lie awake at night thinking, how am I going to get to this kid? How am I going to get to teach little Mickey? Like I can't work out how to get to him because I'm getting tied up over here. So for me, I think what the biggest challenge for teachers is how do we reach all of the kids at once? And there are ways to do it, but I guess that comes from the system. If the system's going to support it, with the funding and the correct allocation of the funding, the correct allocation of supports, the correct training, the list is exhaustive.
Did you see towards the back end of your career of teaching that the behaviour got worse with kids?
No, I didn't actually. No, but see, I got to remember that I always taught in that tricky space, that pointy end space. So a kid smoking crack in the classroom was, something you kind of look at and go, "Oh shit, here we go again. We've got to go and have a word to him and his family." Or a kid telling someone to F off or calling them, the C word. That was pretty common in the spaces I was working in.
Yeah.
I do hear that, a lot of teachers are saying, 20 years ago it was never like this. And there's probably some truth in that. But for me in my career, I never really experienced that because I was always in that space of the really pointy end kids.
And supporting all the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has that been your biggest struggle with education yourself?
How do you mean?
Like being a nice soft-hearted bloke who's got the best interests of all the kids, was that your biggest frustration when you were teaching them, was to try, like you said, trying to get to those kids and nurture them along and still trying to balance everything else?
No, I wouldn't say it was one of my frustrations. I'd say it was one of my biggest frustrations. I'd say it was a frustration, but I think what ends up happening is you find a way in your own self to kind of go, well, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this internal acceptance of I'm not going to be able to do it, but I'll just keep trying and I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's many teachers out there who'd be saying, this is just like, bashing my head against a wall. Like I can't get there. I can't do it. It'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
It'd be very depressing for a lot of teachers out there, especially for the ones that really are led by the welfare of the kids.
Yeah. So what defines a good teacher?
Wow, what a great question.
This is why I don't give you the questions ahead of time.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your answer on this, but you're asking the questions. Hey, what defines a good teacher? Maybe the best way to put it is the teachers I like to employ. It's probably the best way I can probably put it. Is the teachers I like to employ were the ones who weren't afraid to push the boundaries of the system, the ones who were really keen to find a way to make the system work for the kids and weren't scared to do that. The ones who weren't scared that they mightn't get the promotion to head of English, the ones who were really about how do we not get overly concerned about the schools, what do you call it, like risk aversion, and how do we really embrace these kids? Like let me tell you a story that was really distressing. Like this for me was just the epitome of a broken system. I was working at a state school, and I had a kid come into my program, and he was stoned. And this kid had some stuff happen in his life that was pretty sad. Like as I said before, I used that saying. This kid had stuff done to him that made God cry. Like this kid had trauma come from areas that would keep all of us up at night. Turns up to school, he was stoned. And
How old? Sorry,
oh goodness, he would have been what are we talking, grade 9, so 14.
Okay.
14,
Yep.
15.
Sorry, yep.
Turned up to school. Okay. And anyway, he comes into class and he's off his nut. Like his eyes are red, but he's calm. He's really calm. And he goes and sits down. I go over to him, have a word. I said to him, "You've had a few cones today, haven't you?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "It's going to be a bit tricky for me to hold you here." And he goes, "Yeah, I know." And he said, "I've just had a bad day. And I just had to, I had to calm myself down." And I said, "Okay, I'll just sit down." I said, "I've got to let people know I'm sorry, mate. My job's on the line if I don't. Under all the policies and the legislations and all this stuff that schools typically sometimes use to protect themselves with." Mm-hmm. I ring up the line. So next thing I get coming down to the room is the head of the year and the guidance officer. Anyway, they've taken the position that, well, if he's stoned, we've got to call an ambulance. So I break the news. I said, they want to call an ambulance. And his first response was, "They can get fucked." I said, "Yeah, I get that. I figured you'd say that." I said, "What do you think of doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to gap it." And I said, "Well, just stay here. Let me feed you. Let me give you some food. Sit down and have some toast." So I go back to these two people. He's basically told you to get fucked. And they said, "Well, he can't say that." And I said, "Well, he can because he just did." You're going to call the AMS? I said, "Yeah, we're going to have to call the AMS." I said, "But he's going to gap it. He's going to go." And they said, "Well, that's not on us. That's his active decision." I said, "Well, he hasn't got the capacity at the moment to make clear decisions."
He's going to be unsafe.
Yeah, because he's stoned. I said, if we do this, we're pushing him onto the street. We don't know what's going to happen to him out there. I said, "Why don't you let him just sit here? I'll give him a blanket and a pillow. I'll give him some food, some chocolate. Let him chew through. Let him have his munchies moment, and then he'll probably fall asleep and he's at no risk to anyone." "Oh, no. It's not school policy. We've got to call parents. We've got to call the ambulances." Anyway, so they put that in place. They tell the kid. I said, "Well, I'm out." I said, "I've done everything for this kid that I want to do." I said, "I'm not being a part of this." They go over and they tell him. He throws a few curse words at him and then gaps it and takes off. Mm-hmm. As he's walking out of the school, the head of year rings up the line to her manager, which I'm assuming was the assistant principal. "So-and-so has just left the school. These are the reasons. I'm just ringing to make sure we've done everything to protect the school."
Not the kid. Not the kid. Protect the school.
Protect the school.
Oh,
There's the broken system. There's the broken system. Now, mortifies you, doesn't it? How would you be if you're a parent? See, schools don't actually realise the privileged position they're in. You and I are both parents. We both got girls, right? For a parent to give over complete care and control of the educational well-being of a child is a massive thing. To give over that to someone, that's a privilege. You, as a teacher, we're privileged to be entered to be able to enter into the lives of these kids and support them in their educational growth. Okay?
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's service education. It's a privilege. Now, for that privilege to be portrayed, that kid was allowed, that their processes put that kid on the street for whatever reason, but then to portray it even further by going, "Have we protected the school?" Tricky system, isn't it?
Makes you think about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you really deep dive and think,
Yeah.
have we protected ourselves in the school? Have we done the right thing to,
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he's legged it and off his head and anything could happen.
Yeah. Hey, good news of the story, though. He came back the next day.
Yeah,
he was fine. He had some pretty good coping strategies and he was a survivor, this young fella. He came back the next day. So, but sad story, came back the next day. They got wind that he was here. They took him up to the office and had him sit up in the office. Yeah. You got to do the time, buddy. Yeah. Don't come to school stoned.
It comes back to get the consequences. Okay. At the moment, we've got an issue with a teacher shortage, and we've got an issue with our young teachers lasting more than 4 or 5 years. Now, you've been in leadership, you've been in consultancy, you've been in principalship, you've owned your own schools. Is there a way to change that? Is there a way? Is it a program? Is it education? Is it teaching your kids, our staff mindset? Is it mindfulness for the staff? Do you have a theory around how we can get our workforce and our teachers to continue?
Look, I'd like to say I do, but I guess just thinking as you asked that question, I never really thought about that. How do you retain teachers? The system needs to change. I guess the only thing is unshackle teachers and unshackle resourcing.
Okay.
How do you support teachers to do what they want to do, which is teach, but then how do you resource them to do it as well? That's the question. I don't have an answer for that, but I think it lies somewhere in that space of unshackling teachers. Let them teach. Don't turn them into these prescriptive, conservative robot vessels of curriculum delivery, that is pretty much led by the NAPLANs of the world. Let them be creative. Let them engage. Let them use their own intellectual creativity to be these amazing people that they can be, and for the reasons they probably got there. But then also unshackle the resourcing. Really think about how can the resourcing be better used to support the kids. Because I think it'd be pretty fair to say that nowhere in Australian history have we seen this amount of funding and resourcing going into schools. But we're having the most trickiest time in Australian history.
Yeah.
The math doesn't add up.
Does it? Just got me thinking then, because yesterday I'm lucky enough to, with an ex-deputy, put together a life skills class. So we do our love languages, our personality styles, and our character strengths. So it's a positive psychology model sort of thing. And the kids, I said, I apologise for those people like typing and writing, but you're not going to be doing too much of those. We're going to be talking in stories and we're going to be learning from each other.
Yep.
And I said, I've only got you for 10 weeks, but if you don't leave this class within 10 weeks and this isn't in your top 2 subjects, I've failed you. And so I've had them for now 6 weeks. It's not my class, it's our class. I've got their buy-in. We check in every single day with you, what they're grateful for. They get to talk, let off some oxytocin and bond, and they feel like they're part of a community, which they are. Anyway, 6 weeks in, we've had them only 2 lessons a week. It's 12 lessons minus sports day. We probably have 9 lessons. And I said, right, you've got whiteboard markers up here. Everyone's standing up. You're coming on the board and you're going to tell me what you've learned so far in life skills about yourself.
Yeah, right.
The whiteboard was full.
Yeah, wow.
No double ups. Like it was full. And I said, you're telling me that in 10 lessons, and the first one was get to know your lesson, in 9 lessons, you've learned all this stuff, but you haven't typed anything down.
Yeah.
What's going on? Now put up your hand if you typically misbehave in other subjects. 7. Typically 6 boys, 7 students put their hands up. I said, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And they said, we just feel like we're part of something.
Yeah.
And I just think it goes back to again about being student-centered. And people will say to me, well, it's life skills, it's fluffy-duffy, you can do what you want. Really? Because they're learning people skills from books that I wish I would have learned 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's putting those kids first, like you said.
And look, you've given those kids some agency, haven't you? You've really given them the opportunity to be instrumental, almost authoritarian in their own direction of their learning.
Yeah.
And giving them a voice. That's what we all want.
That's right.
Isn't it? Isn't it what we all want? None of us want to be oppressed.
No.
You know?
We want to be heard. We want to be recognised.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting.
Great motivator.
All right. Well, here's my last tough question for you. And then we'll get into some fun stuff if that's all right.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Like we could do this for hours. It's like learning from you. It's great. When Nigel looks in the mirror without the physical stuff, what does he see?
You got the good questions, haven't you, Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, mate, what do I see? I see someone who is pretty happy with where their life is at the moment. Okay. But I also see someone who can be better.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's probably the way I look at it. Like I kind of look at it and I go, hey, there's a nice guy staring back at you. He's pretty happy with where his life is. Like I've had a pretty shit couple of last 3 years with some personal stuff going on. But I look at my life now and I go, hey, how bloody great is it? Like I'm doing a job I love. I'm pretty lucky. I've got 2 amazing little girls who are my earth angels. I live on a beautiful property out Daybury, 20 acres, you can't really ask for much more. But I also think that there's a guy that still needs to grow, still a guy still that needs to learn. Yeah. I think does that answer it for you?
Yeah. So there's still stuff where you're working on your journey.
Yeah. I don't think the journey ever finishes.
No.
It bloody shouldn't. I don't think you ever reach the top.
No.
Because for me, I remember the top was the title.
Yeah.
On my business card.
Yeah.
What a load of bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that when I leave. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not about that. It really isn't.
But see, I'm in awe because I'm sitting here listening to you and unpack some of these things in more depth, and we had a chat about. And we've probably seen each other 3 or 4 times, really.
Yeah.
But you start off with the humble beginnings of bullied, hating school, hating the status quo, and you even had to go yourself having an OP17 and working in sales and can't do that all my life. And you look at your journey and you've put skills together. You've been principals before. You articulate things really well. Like it's not like you're an OP17 and I hate school and look at me now. It's you're driven and you're moving forward, which is amazing. All right, Here we go. Here's some fun stuff.
Yeah, right. Let's have it.
This might actually be harder than the other stuff.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
right. I'm going to give you some words. You're going to give me a word association, the first thing that comes in your mind, okay? Here we go. You ready for this?
What are we on? G, P, G, M?
Mate, you've said F-bombs. You can say whatever you want. Here we go. Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
School.
First thing that came to mind was shit house.
Okay. And that's the end of the... No. Staff.
Value.
Students.
Yeah, pretty cool.
How about teenagers?
Yeah, they're good fun.
All right. I actually had here before we got into depth. School systems.
Oh, shit.
Family.
There's not enough words to describe them. You know, like my family's absolutely fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my family. Like I can honestly say that. You know, like I got mum and dad. Like, you know, we've had our issues over the years, and what kid hasn't with their mum and dad? But they're pretty incredible people. Yeah,
That's lovely. Your current role.
blessed.
Sleep.
Not needing as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird.
Holidays.
Kids, my girls. Yeah, we go motorbike riding. We camp and go motorbike riding. We love it. So bloody good.
Okay. Leisure activity.
I don't really have one. I just life is probably what it is. You know, like if you think about, I just think about all the stuff I like doing, like getting out, camping, motorbike riding, taking my cruiser out, motocross riding with my girls. Just life is leisure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little slogan. Life is leisure, like that.
Yeah.
Chicken wings.
Yeah, can you make me some more?
All right, some quick ones. Favourites. Favourite food.
Meatloaf,
Favourite movie.
Rambo, and Rocky.
Oh, that's the same as us.
How good is it?
Rocky
Do you know everyone thinks that Rocky was actually an action, but it's actually
It's a romance, isn't it?
yeah, romance. But it's also a Christmas story.
Mm.
Yeah. It was around Christmas time. Everyone says that Die Hard was the Christmas movie, but Rocky was the original Christmas movie.
So in the garage here, where the boxing bag stand is,
Yeah.
Rach actually framed me up the Adrian and Rocky caressing after the fight. Mate, it's just motivates.
Yeah.
Rocky 1
Yeah, 100%.
and Rambo 1.
Number one, yeah, always. I didn't mind his last one. not the very last one. The one where he was in Burma. I thought that had some pretty interesting messages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty full on violent.
Juiced up.
Yeah. But Rambo 1, which had some pretty good things
First
about
Blood.
it. Yeah, awesome. If you can ever read the book by David Morrell, read it. Read First Blood. It's different than the movie. More violent, but brilliant book.
All right. Favourite drink? Because that might have changed recently.
Yeah.
Off the booze?
Yeah, off the booze. About 9 months off the booze.
Good on you.
Yeah. Actually, becoming 10 months soon.
Wow.
Yeah. Just wanted to take a healthier life, and like everybody, probably leaned on it a bit too much sometimes, and kind of I don't need this in my life anymore. So yeah, off the booze. So favourite drink would probably be coffee, but I'm trying to get off that at the moment. So mate, I think it's just going to come down to Coke Zero. Coke Zero. Yeah.
Good. All right. Do you have a favourite song or artist?
Oh, look, mate, it's anything to do with country. There's this great song by a country artist called Chris Stapleton. Mm-hmm. It's called Starting Over.
Starting over for it. Yeah. Rach likes country, so I'm going to send it to her tomorrow and say, love you from me, not you, and then see what happens.
Yeah, great.
So, starting over, all right, write that down. Perfect. Do you want to give us a few bars or not?
No,
okay, we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favourite season of the year?
Spring.
Okay.
Actually, start of spring and the start of like the autumn days, the autumn and springs, mate. They're just, you can't beat those crisp mornings and temperature and the sun and the sky, mate. Gee, she's magic. Especially out where I live, like it's just gorgeous.
It is nice. You'll probably been out there once. Lovely. Yeah. Do you have a favourite vehicle?
Yeah, look, I guess my unicorn car would have to be the 79 Series dual cab V8 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Okay.
Yeah. I just get around in an old beaten up Hilux. She's got about 300 on the clock, and I think she's only just starting to get run in, so she's got a few more 100,000 Ks on her.
Very, very good. Do you have a favourite holiday destination?
A favourite place I've visited would probably, if it's overseas travel, it'd always be Venice. Okay. I love Venice. Beautiful. Just loved it. Love just walking the streets. Been there 3 times, just walking through down the cobblestones, in and out of the alleys, come out and there's a beautiful big cathedral. There's a coffee shop here. But favourite space would probably be Anywhere I'm camping with my daughters.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The quality time, eh?
Yep.
Do you have a favourite human trait?
Honesty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a pet man? Like, do you have a favourite pet?
Yeah, dogs. 100%. We've got 4 of them at home. Beautiful.
Okay. Do you have a favourite go-to dad joke?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what it is. I do love the Chuck Norris jokes, though.
Oh, I've heard some of them.
Yeah.
So the kids brought them to school once. We did a podcast at school and they're like, I was like, it's enough now. No, got another one for you.
Yeah. Have you heard the one about how Chuck Norris does push-ups?
No.
He doesn't actually push his body weight up. He pushes the earth down.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, here's one for you. This is the last one for favourites, by the way. Do you have a favourite go-to motivational saying or slogan or something you've heard that resonates with you?
Oh, there's probably that one by Muhammad Ali, you know, service of others as your rent for your time here on earth. That's pretty powerful.
I like that.
There's so many other good ones out there, but that's the only one I can really think of at the moment. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that would be it. And also because I love boxing. I used to do a fair bit of boxing. And Muhammad Ali was just amazing. So there's kind of a nice connection synergy there for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think when I first started dating Rach, she used to send me like these things, like little quotes and that kind of stuff, and it was really nice. It makes your day sometimes. I remember one time on a Monday, I said, Monday, you know, Monday. I still have a job, it's a stereotype, Monday. And she goes, you need to make the most of your day because you don't get it back. Nice way.
Yeah, so good.
How was that?
Yeah. I actually had a principal once say to me, it was a really good son. I was going through some tricky stuff and she was absolutely lovely. You know, really one of these really supportive principals who could actually quite easily navigate and move between being your boss, but then also being your confidant. Had a really emotionally intelligent woman. And hers was the sun rises on a new day. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I was going through some stuff and she said, Nigel, I get what's going on for you, but just remember the sun rises on a new day. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Love it. All right. Last 4 questions here. You're down to your last $20. What's Nigel doing with his last $20?
Oh, I'll just go and buy some ice creams with the girls and we'll sit out in the park. We go to this little, every Monday we go to a ice cream shop in Daybro before I drop the girls off to do their dance and singing lessons. And we always get ice creams. So, we'll go get some ice creams.
Nice. You've just inherited $10 million. What are you doing with the 10 mil? You're thinking about making another school or something, aren't you?
Yeah, it's going through my mind.
I could feel it.
It's going through my mind. Yeah, it would be. I'd start up a school. Be a nice, nice 60-acre country school. Everything in there that you need, from psychologists to OTs to having allied health professionals and educators work side by side with
health hub.
Yeah, with a delineated authority. No one's in charge of. The teachers don't know more. The allied health don't know more. You work collaboratively.
Nice. Bit of dog therapy there.
100%. Horses. Yeah. That's where I was starting going. I was
good fit.
I like it how you pick that.
Yeah. Now Nigel's past has caught up with him and he's going to death row. So what's his last meal he's going to have?
Oh, look, I'd get Mum to throw together her famous meatloaf and mashed potato and the gravy. She made this beautiful gravy. So, yeah, that'd be it.
Oh, sounds good. All right, last question. No, I haven't. I lied. I've got 2 more questions. I've got to write down. Okay. If you could be anyone in the world for one day, who would it be and why?
If I could be anyone in the world for one day, who would it be and why? I've got no idea. If I could be anyone in the world for one day, who would it be and why? Man, I'm going to have to take a rain check on that one for you. I honestly cannot think about who I'd like to be for one day.
Not Taylor Swift?
No. No, those heels won't suit me. Not with my pig trotters. I won't fit into them.
All right. I'll let you think of that. I'm coming back to that, by the way.
Yeah.
You're trapped on a deserted island and you only take 3 people and they can't be your family members because obviously that's what you do. I know you're a family man.
Yeah.
And respect that a lot, by the way. But who would you take and why? Who are the 3 people you're on a desert island with?
Oh, I can only probably say the characteristics. I'd probably take someone who can make me laugh.
Yep.
Keep the spirits up.
Yep.
Yeah. So probably actually on that spot, probably one of my best mates, Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah. Him and I got very similar humour. That kind of. You ever seen The Simpsons? How they always take the joke the extra step, and then they take the extra step and they get in the line, and they don't actually cross over the line. They shit on the line.
It's right on the edge.
Yeah, and they go over the line.
Toenails go.
They turn around and they throw up on the line. They keep walking and do it again. Yeah, so that's his and my humour.
Okay.
So I'd take someone to keep me humour. I'd take someone who's really good at pulling you out of tricky spots. You know, someone who can just sit and listen and have a yarn to you.
Mm-hmm.
And fossicking, you know, survival. Someone who can survive. Probably someone like that, you know.
Like a Bear Grylls or something?
Yeah. Yep. Someone like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So those three things that would kind of complement or support me.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Have you thought about who you'd be for a day yet?
No. You know, funny enough when you said that, because I think it might have been the fact that you said Taylor Swift and music. I automatically went to Elvis.
Ah, yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the good
You don't
days.
do now.
No, God, no. Well, he's probably living in the Bahamas, isn't he? No, but in his good days, I was watching. If anyone gets a chance, get onto YouTube and have a look at him doing that song from the movie Ghost. Remember that song?
Unchained Melody.
Unchained Melody. Google YouTube Unchained Melody by Elvis. It's one of his last acts, and he's not in a good place. You can tell it's a really sad performance, but he's still got it.
Yeah, still
got it. But yeah, Elvis back in the day, like wow,
that's good.
So amazing.
All right, mate. Well, listen, love having you on the show. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you wanted to talk about, mention?
No. I think for me, the only thing I can ever always say is how do we find ways to put kids first?
Yeah.
How do we find that genuinely, authentically put the kids first? You know, everyone says we're doing it, but are you?
Yeah.
You know, is the system stopping you? Is your own prejudice stopping you? Your own bias stopping you? Is your own fact that you're not resourced enough to do it, you know, or is it the fact that you just don't like this kid? You know, let's be honest. Sometimes some kids can be quite hard to like.
Yeah.
You know, but how do you put the kid first, and how do you make a system, and how do you make the system work for the kid, not the other way around? It's probably the only thing I'd like to, I guess, finish it off on.
I love that, mate. I love that. A lot of commonalities there, and like I said, mate, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your time. I know you travel all the way back to your lovely place out there at Daybra, but no doubt with your business you're going to kill it, and you're going to kill it for the right reasons, not for probably knowing you, it's not maybe for the financial stuff. It'll be the amount of lives that you do change, both the parents and the kids, and you can feel that all the way ever since I first met you. And the people who you come into, I'm not trying to patronise you, but the people who you're going to come into their lives, you're going to have a massive impact, and you may never know what that impact's going to be. So good on you, mate, for being the person you are and the line of work what you're doing, because I think you have a massive change, and people should be grateful for what you're doing for them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been great. First time doing this, and loved every minute of it, mate. Good on you. Thanks, Gary.